Prologue, West Berlin, November 1976. The wall divides a city, concrete slabs 30 feet high, barbed wire coiled like serpents, guard towers with searchlights that sweep the darkness, searching for those foolish enough to believe freedom is worth dying for. On the western side, in a basement beneath a bookshop that sells Goethe to intellectuals and pornography to soldiers, a young American sergeant sits shirtless on a metal chair bolted to the floor. His name is Donovan Thatcher. He is 25 years old. His hands rest calmly on his thighs despite what is about to happen. The tattoo artist is German, 73 years old. Survived the Reich, survived the Soviets, survived the partition. His fingers are gnarled with the arthritis, but steady with purpose. He has done this work 12 times before in 12 different cities. Always the same design, always in basements like this where official eyes cannot see. The needle begins its work, bites into flesh between Thatcher's shoulder blades. Black ink flows into dermis. The pain is considerable. Thatcher's jaw tightens, but he does not flinch, does not make a sound. A man watches from the corner. He wears a suit that costs more than Thatcher earns in 3 months. Company man. No name offered. No name required. Everyone in this room knows what the absence of names means. The construction began in August of '61, the man says. His voice is measured. Educated. Harvard or Yale. 155 kilometers of concrete and wire. Overnight, families were divided, friends separated. The free world watched and did nothing. Thatcher nods. He was 14 when the wall went up. Remembers watching it on television. His father, a Marine who fought at Incheon, had wept. Not from sadness, from rage. But the wall is not the real threat, the CIA man continues. The Soviets are not building barriers to keep their people in. They are building networks to infiltrate ours. The KGB has sleeper agents embedded throughout NATO military structures, some planted a decade ago, some longer. They wait. They watch. They steal our secrets and send them east, and we cannot find them because they blend perfectly. The needle pauses. The old German wipes blood and excess ink from Thatcher's back. The outline is beginning to emerge. Scales, curves, the suggestion of something serpentine. Dragon balance was established in 1963 by executive order, the man says. President Kennedy signed it 6 weeks before Dallas. The program's existence is known to perhaps 20 people on Earth. You will be the 13th operator since inception. Generation 1. Why dragon? Thatcher asks. His voice is steady despite the pain. Chinese philosophy. The dragon represents power, wisdom, transformation. But a single dragon is chaos. Yin and yang. Shadow and light. 2 dragons in balance represent perfect equilibrium. Control without tyranny. Strength without cruelty. The ideal we must protect. The needle returns to its work. The pain intensifies as the artist moves to areas with less muscle, more nerve endings. Thatcher breathes through it, counts in his head, uses techniques learned in Ranger School. The first operator was General Edmund Reeves, the CIA man says. He received his marking from Director McCone himself in November 1963, 5 days before Dallas. General Reeves recruited the next 11 operators personally, built Generation Zero into the foundation of everything that followed. Thatcher turns his head slightly. What happened to Generation Zero? 6 are still active in various capacities. 3 retired. 2 were killed in operations that officially never occurred. 1 committed suicide after 20 years of living in shadows. The man's voice carries no emotion, just facts. This is not a career, Sergeant Thatcher. This is a life sentence. You will have no recognition. No medals you can display, no stories you can tell. You will be a ghost, a guardian operating in permanent darkness so others can live in light. I understand. Do you, the question is sharp, challenging. You are 25 years old. You believe you understand sacrifice. You do not yet. This work will cost you everything. Relationships, family, the possibility of a normal life. You will grow old alone. You will die with secrets that could never be spoken, even in confession. Thatcher considers this, thinks about the alternative. A normal military career, promotions, a pension, retirement at 45, grandchildren he could teach to fish. He thinks about the wall, about families divided, about the long twilight struggle his father's generation began and his generation must continue. I understand, he says again, and I accept. The CIA man nods. Then let me tell you what this marking means. Dragon balance operators are trained in tradecraft that does not officially exist. Urban survival, deep cover, psychological operations. You will learn to blend into any environment, to become invisible, to identify threats that conventional intelligence misses. The needle continues, hours pass. The dragon takes shape, not one creature but two, intertwined, complementary. One rendered in deep black ink that seems to absorb light, the other in lighter shades that catch and reflect it. Between them, stylized flames that represent the eternal tension, the balance that must be maintained. Your mission is simple in concept, impossible in execution, the man says. Protect the integrity of American military power from corruption within, foreign agents, toxic leaders who create exploitable vulnerabilities, cultural rot that weakens us more effectively than any external enemy. You will be the antibody in the bloodstream, finding the infection, eliminating it before it spreads. 6 hours pass. The old German finally sets down his tools, steps back, examines his work with the critical eye of a craftsman. Es ist vollbracht, he says. It is finished. Thatcher stands carefully, moves to a mirror, sees for the first time what he will carry for the rest of his life. The dragons are magnificent, works of art that transcend mere decoration. They spiral around each other in perfect symmetry. The dark dragon's head rests between his left shoulder blade and spine. The light dragon mirrors it on the right, their bodies interweaved down to his lower back. The flames surrounding them seem almost to move in the mirror's reflection. You are now Dragon Balance, the CIA man says. Operator 13, Generation 1. Your training begins tomorrow in a facility that does not exist on any map. You will disappear from all official records for 3 years. When you return, you will be ready. Thatcher touches the mirror, traces the outline of the dragon he cannot quite see. The marking is on his back, invisible to him except in reflection, like the work itself, always present, never acknowledged. What happens if I fail, he asks. You will not fail, the man says, because failure means people die. Good people, people who depend on guardians they will never know exist. That knowledge will sustain you through everything that follows. 49 years of service will follow. 49 years of missions completed and threats neutralized and culture protected. 49 years of living in shadow so others could walk in light. And in 2015, in a parking lot outside a naval recruiting station in San Diego, California on a Tuesday afternoon in October, Rain Donovan Thatcher will see an 18-year-old girl, foster kid, no family, anger radiating from her like heat from asphalt. He will see in her eyes what the CIA man saw in his all those years ago in Berlin. He will see fire, purpose, the raw material of something extraordinary. Her name will be Aurora, and she will be his final student, his masterwork, his legacy. But that is still 4 decades away. Now in November 1976, in a basement in West Berlin, Sergeant Donovan Thatcher pulls his shirt back on carefully over fresh ink and fresh paint, shakes the old German's hand, follows the CIA man upstairs into the divided city. The Cold War has years left to run. The wall will stand for 13 more years. Families will remain separated. The world will continue its division into light and shadow. But in the shadows, Dragon Balance operators will keep watch, will keep faith, will keep the balance. Chapter 1. The Janitor, Fort Maxwell, Texas. Friday evening, November 20th, the main canteen reeks of institutional food and recycled air. Grease from the fryers coats every surface with an invisible film. Coffee burned at 0600 has been sitting on burners for 12 hours. 200 soldiers fill the space. Voices rise and fall in the particular rhythm of military dining facilities worldwide. Complaints about duty rosters. Jokes that are not quite funny enough. The baseline noise of community formed through shared misery. In the far corner near the emergency exit with its glowing red sign, an old man pushes a mop across stained linoleum. He moves slowly, methodically, the shuffle of someone whose joints ache with decades of use. He is tall, would be taller if his spine had not compressed with age. His shoulders are still broad despite the stoop. White hair cut military short, though he claims no service. His face is a topographical map of wrinkles earned through 74 years of living. His name tag reads, Thatcher, no first name, just Thatcher. The personnel file in the admin office lists him as the night janitor. Hired 3 months ago. Background check came back clean. Social security number valid. Driver's license from Montana where he claims to have worked as a fishing guide. No red flags, no reasons for concern. The file is fabricated, excellent fabrication. The kind that costs 6 figures and involves alteration of federal databases, but fabrication nonetheless. His real name is Master Sergeant Donovan Thatcher. Retired. Except Dragon Balance operators never truly retire. They simply transition from active to observational status. Beneath his janitor's uniform, hidden from every eye, 2 dragons writhe across his back in ink that has faded from decades against skin, but never lost its meaning. He pushes his mop, watches, waits. His student is 7 minutes late. Chapter 2. The Alpha Staff Sergeant Garrison Blackwood occupies the head of a table like a king holding court. That is how he conceptualizes these gatherings. Medieval hierarchy, clear lines of authority, those who have power and those who serve power. Garrison is 34 years old, 6 feet 5 inches. 240 pounds of muscle carved through religious devotion to the weight room and 3 combat deployments that burned away anything soft. His face is handsome in the way of blunt instruments, strong jaw, cold blue eyes, skin that holds a tan even in winter. He wears his uniform like armor. Every crease could cut paper. Every ribbon placed with micrometer precision. 4 years as an Army Ranger. Deployments to Kandahar, Mosul, places whose names remain classified. He has killed men, has watched men die, has earned his authority through blood and fire. He has also learned that authority maintained through fear is the most reliable kind. His court surrounds him. To his right sits Captain Vivian Sterling, 31. Blonde hair maintained at considerable expense. Beautiful in the way that requires constant effort. She is the only woman at this table. Has earned that position by being harder than the men, more willing to sacrifice others, more ruthless in protecting her territory. She learned early that there is only room for one queen in any kingdom. Across from Garrison sits Corporal Jensen, large, loyal, stupid enough to follow orders without question. Next to Jensen is Corporal Murdoch. Same general specifications. They are enforcers, the muscle that backs up Garrison's authority when psychological intimidation proves insufficient. And then there is Private Flynn Ashford. Flynn is 19 years old, looks younger, red hair that curls despite being cut regulation short, freckles scattered across pale skin, green eyes that still hold optimism despite 3 months at Fort Maxwell. He looks like he should be playing baseball in some Iowa small town, not sitting at this table learning to become something harder. His grandfather was a Marine, Korea, chosen reservoir. Flynn grew up on stories of honor and duty and standing for principle even when standing alone. His grandfather's voice is a constant presence in his internal dialogue, a moral compass that refuses to fade despite pressure to ignore it. Flynn does not want to be at this table, but he is a private. He goes where he is told, sits where ordered, laughs at jokes that are not funny because that is what survival requires. Garrison drains his coffee, slams the mug down with unnecessary force. The sound cuts through ambient noise. Nearby conversations falter. Heads turn. 3 months, Garrison announces. His voice carries the particular resonance of someone accustomed to being heard. 3 months since they pinned these stripes on my sleeve. Who said hard work doesn't pay? Laughter from his court. Vivian's smile has edges sharp enough to draw blood. Is that what we're calling it? She asks. Her tone is playful, predatory. Hard work. More laughter. Garrison's grin widens. He feeds on this. The attention, the acknowledgement, the confirmation that he dominates this space. In the corner, Thatcher continues mopping. His face shows nothing, but his eyes track every movement, every interaction. 3 months of observation, building psychological profiles, documenting patterns. The assessment is complete. Staff Sergeant Garrison Blackwood represents exactly the kind of threat Dragon Balance was created to eliminate. Not foreign agents, something more insidious. A cancer growing from within. Toxic leadership that creates the vulnerabilities foreign intelligence services exploit. Tonight, the cancer will be removed. Thatcher's eyes shift to the main entrance. She is here. Chapter 3, The Entrance. The canteen doors open. A small figure enters. Female. Drowning in a military jacket 3 sizes too large. The sleeves hang past her hands. The hem reaches nearly to her knees. She freezes just inside the doorway. Visible panic crosses her face, blue eyes impossibly wide, darting from face to face like a prey animal suddenly aware of predators. She is tiny, perhaps 5 feet 3 inches, maybe 115 pounds. Long blonde hair pulled into a messy bun with loose curls escaping to frame her face. Kin pale, delicate features that belong in a painting, not a military installation. Beneath the oversized jacket, she wears a gray t-shirt. Civilian, not regulation. Dark pants that might be cargo pants, or might be something purchased at a department store. Combat boots that are clearly too large. She shuffles rather than walks. Keeps her weight on the balls of her feet to prevent the boots from slipping off. Everything about her presentation screams mistake. Wrong place, wrong person. Civilian who somehow bypassed security and wandered onto a military base. Garrison sees her immediately. His predator instincts engage with the smooth efficiency of long practice. Weak target, easy mark. Perfect entertainment for a Friday evening. He stands, all 6 feet 5 inches rising like a mountain finding legs. His shadow falls across 3 tables. Conversation stops. The canteen grows quiet. Everyone sensing something about to happen. Well, 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 Garrison says. His voice carries to every corner, amplified by the sudden silence. What do we have here? The girl's eyes find him. Widen further, her breathing quickens, chest rising and falling rapidly. Classic fight or flight response. Amateur observers would read pure fear. Thatcher, watching from his corner, sees more. Sees the way her feet have shifted. Slightly, almost imperceptibly, into a balanced stance. Weight distributed perfectly. Ready to move in any direction. Sees the way her breathing, despite appearing panicked, follows a specific pattern. 4-count inhale, 7-count hold, 8-count exhale. The exact rhythm taught in advanced special operations training to control heart rate during high-stress situations. Sees the way her eyes, despite appearing scattered and frightened, are conducting systematic reconnaissance. Counting exits, identifying potential threats, calculating angles and distances. She is not panicking, she is performing, and the performance is flawless. Garrison takes a step toward her, then another, moving like a large predator who knows the kill is certain. You lost, sweetheart. The costume party is downtown, not on a federal military installation. Laughter erupts, phones appear. This will be content, this will be social media gold. The lost civilian girl being educated by the professional soldier. The girl opens her mouth, closes it. No words emerge. Her face flushes red. Humiliation colors her cheeks like paint. She seems to shrink even smaller. Garrison stops 3 feet from her, uses his height as a weapon, towers over her, makes her crane her neck to look up at his face. Let me guess. Boyfriend in the service gave you his jacket, thought it would be cute to play soldier for the evening. More laughter. Harder now. Crueler. Vivian joins Garrison. Circles the girl like a shark sensing blood in water. Oh, honey, Vivian says. Her voice drips with manufactured sympathy. This is so embarrassing for you. Should we call someone? Your parents, maybe? The girl's eyes drop to the floor. Her shoulders hunch forward. She seems on the verge of tears. The complete picture of someone overwhelmed and defeated. But Flynn, watching from his position at Garrison's auto, feels something twist uncomfortably in his stomach. This is wrong. This is bullying. This is exactly what his grandfather taught him to stand against. He pushes back from the table. Stands. His voice cracks slightly when he speaks. Sergeant, maybe we should just... Private Ashford. Garrison's head snaps around. His eyes lock onto Flynn like targeting lasers. Did I ask for your input? No, Sergeant. But she's not bothering anyone. We could just, what? Vivian's voice cuts like a blade. Let unauthorized personnel wander around a military base. Is that your recommendation? Private, should we compromise security because you developed feelings for a girl in an oversized jacket? The laughter that follows is designed to wound, to humiliate, to teach Flynn the cost of challenging authority. His face burns red, but he does not sit, does not back down. The girl finally speaks. Her voice is barely audible, soft, feminine, uncertain. I have orders to report here. Garrison's laugh is not a pleasant sound. Orders from who? Your drama teacher. He turns to address the crowd, playing to his audience now, phones recording, witnesses to his dominance. Look at this, people. We have ourselves a lost little princess wearing daddy's clothes and claiming to have orders. The mockery should be devastating. Any normal person would flee, would escape this public humiliation as quickly as possible. But something is wrong. Garrison feels it first. A subtle shift in the atmosphere. The girl is still looking at the floor, still trembling, still appearing weak and afraid. But her feet are in a perfect fighting stance now. Not defensive, aggressive. The stance of someone preparing to attack rather than flee. And her breathing, it has changed. No longer rapid and panicked, now measured, controlled. The breathing of someone in complete command of their physiology. Garrison shakes off the feeling. Ridiculous. She is a civilian, a girl, helpless. He is seeing threats where none exist. Let's see what you've got, he says. Basic drill commands. Attention. The girl's transformation is instantaneous. Her body snaps into perfect military bearing. Heels together, shoulders back, arms at sides, eyes forward. Not a tremor, not a waver. The execution is flawless. The laughter falters, dies. This was not the expected response. About face, she pivots. 180 degrees, perfect timing, perfect form. Her oversized boots click against concrete with parade ground precision. The sound echoes in the sudden quiet. Present arms. She brings her hands up to the exact position required for presenting an imaginary rifle. The angle is textbook. The form is what drill instructors use as demonstration for recruits. The canteen has gone silent. Soldiers lean forward. This is not normal. This does not make sense. Civilians cannot execute drill commands with this level of precision. Garrison feels his confidence begin to crack. He forces it back, refuses to accept that his assessment was wrong. Lucky guess, he says. His voice lacks its earlier certainty. Anyone can memorize a few moves from YouTube videos. Vivian senses his uncertainty, steps in to support. Let's try something harder, something you can't just memorize. Garrison unholsters his sidearm, a Sig Sauer M18, standard issue. He ejects the magazine with theatrical flair, clears the chamber, holds the empty weapon toward the girl. Field strip it, reassemble it, 30 seconds. Let's see how you do with real military equipment. This is impossible. Even experienced soldiers struggle with this timeline. A civilian would have no chance. The weapon would confuse her, prove her to be the fraud he knows she must be. The girl takes the weapon. Her small hands look inadequate to the task, should struggle with the weight, should fumble with the components. They do not struggle. Her fingers find the takedown lever, press. The slide comes free. Barrel, recoil spring, frame. Each component removed with surgical precision, laid out on a nearby table in perfect order. No hesitation, no uncertainty, just fluid mechanical knowledge. 15 seconds. The watching soldiers press closer despite themselves. This is not normal. This is expertise that takes months to develop, years to perfect. The reassembly is even more impressive. Her hands move like water flowing downhill, following the path of least resistance, each piece finding its place without conscious thought. Click, snap, slide. The weapon reforms in her grasp. 12 seconds. Total time 27 seconds. 3 seconds under the deadline. The weapon is returned to Garrison. Safety on. Slide forward. Magazine well empty. Professionally handled. The silence that follows is profound, broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of traffic on the highway outside the fence. Garrison stares at the weapon in his hands, as if it might explain what just happened. His confident smirk has disappeared, replaced by confusion, by the first stirrings of doubt about his right on this situation. Thatcher in his corner allows himself the smallest smile. 10 years of training, 10 years of preparation for this moment. She is performing perfectly. Flynn watches with growing amazement. This woman, this tiny woman he tried to defend, she is something else entirely. Something he does not understand. Something that makes his skin prickle with instinctive recognition that he is witnessing something important. Where did you learn that? Garrison's voice has lost its mocking edge. Now there is only confusion, suspicion. The girl's eyes drop again. Her voice returns to that soft, uncertain register. Practice, Moan. The word hangs in the air. Insufficient explanation, raising more questions than it answers. Garrison cannot accept it. To accept it is to admit he was wrong, to admit weakness. His psychology will not allow this. He must regain dominance, must prove she is still beneath him, still controllable. Beginner's luck, he says, but the words ring hollow even to his own ears. Anyone can take apart a pistol if they've watched enough movies. He pulls out his phone, searches for something, anything that will restore the natural order where he is superior and she is inferior. Let's try tactical scenarios. Real military knowledge. You're pinned by sniper fire from elevated position. Squad taking casualties. How do you respond? This is unfair. This requires knowledge of advanced infantry tactics, understanding of fire and maneuver, concepts that take years of training and real combat experience to internalize. There is no way identify sniper position through muzzle flash analysis and impact pattern recognition, the girl says. Her voice is still soft, but now there is certainty beneath the fear. Deploy smoke for concealment while moving casualties to hard cover. Establish suppressive fire with squad automatic weapons to fix the sniper in position. Call for counter-sniper support or close air support depending on available assets. If neither, available coordinate flanking maneuver using terrain features while maintaining base of fire. The answer is not just correct, it is exhaustively complete. Textbook perfect, the kind of answer given by infantry school instructors with 20 years of experience. Garrison's phone slips from nerveless fingers, clatters on concrete floor. The sound is loud as a gunshot in the silence. Colonel Nathaniel Montgomery chooses this moment to enter the canteen. He is 63 years old, gray hair cut regulation short, sharp eyes that miss nothing. 3 wars, 30 years of service. He has seen everything the military can show a person and survived it all. He takes in the scene immediately. The crowd, the phones, the palpable tension, the small woman standing alone surrounded by wolves. What is the situation here? His voice carries 3 decades of command authority. Garrison snaps to attention. His pack follows suit. Just conducting an impromptu inspection, sir. Verifying this individual's authorization to wear military uniform on base. Montgomery's eyes move to the girl. She looks exactly as Garrison described. Civilian, lost, confused. But something bothers Montgomery. Some instinct developed over decades. A sense that the surface does not match the depth. Ma'am, he says, his tone is not unkind, professional. Do you have authorization to be on this installation? The girl reaches into her jacket pocket, produces papers, crumpled, slightly damp from nervous hands, extends them toward Montgomery with visible trembling. Montgomery accepts them, begins to read. His expression shifts from mild concern to puzzlement to something approaching alarm. The papers are official, signatures genuine, but the content is unlike anything in his experience. The orders reference programs he has never heard of. Authorization codes at classification levels he did not know existed. These orders are highly irregular, he says slowly, each word chosen carefully. The authorization codes are correct, but the assignment parameters are classified above my clearance level. Garrison's face drains of color. Classified above a full colonel's clearance, that is not possible. That is national security level classification. Intelligence community. Special operations at the highest levels. Sir Vivian interjects, desperately trying to maintain the narrative. Those documents could be forgeries. Identity theft is a serious problem. Military credentials have significant black market value. I am aware of identity theft, Captain Sterling. Montgomery's tone could freeze hydrogen. I am also aware of classification protocols. These codes are legitimate. I have seen similar codes exactly once in my career. In 1991, during a classified briefing, I am still not cleared to discuss. He looks at the girl again. Really looks, trying to reconcile her appearance with documentation that references operations that officially do not exist. Ma'am, he says carefully, I need to verify these orders through proper channels. Until then, I must ask you to remain here under supervision. The girl simply nods, accepts this without protest. Too calm, too compliant for someone in her apparent situation. Garrison sees an opportunity, one last chance to regain control, to prove she is a fraud. Sir, with respect, we should verify she is who she claims to be. Strip search protocols for base security. The suggestion lands like a mortar round. Montgomery's eyes narrow. Sergeant Blackwood, that is an extreme post 9/11 security protocol, sir. Garrison talks quickly. Building justification. Heightened threat awareness. If this woman is carrying forged documents, she could be a foreign agent. We have a responsibility to base security. Vivian steps forward. I could conduct the search, sir. Female officer handling female subject. Keep it professional. Maintain proper protocols. The logic is barely sound. The security concerns have minimal validity, but Garrison presents it well enough that outright refusal becomes difficult. Montgomery hesitates. His instincts scream warnings he cannot articulate. But the chain of command, but regulations, but the appearance of proper security procedures. In the corner, Thatcher finally moves, sets his mop against the wall, stands to his full height. For the first time in 3 months, he speaks to someone other than himself. Sergeant Blackwood. His voice is different now. Not the mumble of an elderly janitor. Deep, commanding, carrying weight earned through 49 years of service. You might want to reconsider that order. Every head turns. Who is this janitor to speak, to offer advice to a staff sergeant? Garrison's face flushes red. Mind your business, old man. Thatcher does not smile, does not frown. His weathered face is stone. I am minding my business, son. My business is trying to save you from the biggest mistake of your life. Security of this base is my responsibility. Garrison's voice rises, defensive, aggressive. Is it? Thatcher's eyes are ice, ancient glaciers that have seen civilizations rise and fall. Or is your wounded pride making decisions right now, because those are very different things? Flynn watches this exchange with fascination. The old janitor, the man he has walked past 100 times without really seeing. Where did that voice come from? That bearing Thatcher takes a step forward. No longer stooped, no longer shuffling. Suddenly he seems taller, broader, more solid, like a mountain that was hidden by fog now revealed in terrible clarity. Last chance, Thatcher says quietly. Walk away. Let the colonel verify the orders through proper channels. Go about your evening. Tomorrow you wake up with your career intact, your dignity intact, your future intact. Garrison's hands clench into fists. I don't take orders from custodial staff. No, Thatcher agrees. You don't. But perhaps you should accept wisdom from someone who has stood exactly where you're standing, looking at something he doesn't understand. Someone who frightens him. Someone he needs to dominate to feel secure. The psychological insight cuts deep. Garrison recoils as if struck. How does this old man see inside his head? How does he know I'm not frightened of some lost girl? Garrison snarls. Thatcher shrugs, returns to his mop, begins working again. The moment passes. He becomes just a janitor once more. But the seed is planted. The doubt grows. The girl speaks. Her voice cuts through the confusion. It's okay. She looks at Garrison, looks at Montgomery. If the sergeant believes a search is necessary for base security, I'll comply. The words are submissive, cooperative. But something in her tone, something underneath the surface, she is not surrendering. She is choosing. and the distinction is vast. Garrison hears only the surface. He smiles. Victory. Finally. Outstanding. Captain Sterling, conduct the search. Vivian steps forward. Her smile is predatory. This is the ultimate humiliation, the final crushing of a rival female. Proof of her superiority. The girl's hands move to the buttons of her oversized jacket. Slowly, deliberately. Each button opens with a soft click that echoes in the silent canteen. 200 soldiers watch. 200 phones record. This will be the moment. The reveal. The proof that Garrison was right all along. Garrison's smile reaches maximum width. Finally, vindication. Dominance restored. Flynn feels sick. This is wrong. This is so fundamentally wrong. But he is powerless to stop it. Montgomery opens his mouth to object, to stop this. But the justification was sound enough. The procedures technically correct. How can he intervene without appearing to compromise security? Thatcher continues to mop, but his eyes never leave the girl. Ready, waiting, trusting. The jacket falls away. The girl stands in her gray t-shirt. It is fitted, shows athletic definition that speaks of serious physical conditioning, muscle earned through brutal training. Not the soft body of a civilian, but Garrison does not notice. He sees only what he expects to see. Weakness, femininity, prey. Now the shirt, he orders, his voice thick with anticipated triumph. The girl's hands find the hem of her gray t-shirt. Her blue eyes sweep the room one final time. No fear now, no uncertainty. Something else entirely. Something ancient, primal, dangerous. She begins to lift the fabric, slowly, inch by inch, revealing first the toned muscles of her abdomen, core strength that speaks of endless hours of conditioning, then the defined lines of her ribs, the athletic build of someone who uses their body as a weapon, then the first glimpse of black ink. Not a small tattoo, not decorative. This is art. This is statement. This is identity. Intricate scales appear, each one individually shaded, the kind of detail that requires hours under the needle. Professional work, old work. The ink slightly faded from years against skin, but the design still sharp. The scales form curves, serpentine, the suggestion of something large, something significant. The shirt rises higher, more scales, the body of something writhing. Then another form emerges, not black, lighter, rendered in shades that catch and reflect light rather than absorbing it. Shadow and light, yin and yang, two creatures, dragons, one dark as a moonless night, one bright as polished silver. They spiral around each other, intertwined, complementary, their tails disappearing beneath the fabric still covering her lower back, their heads clearly positioned between her shoulder blades. Between them, surrounding them, stylized flames rendered with such precision they seem almost to flicker in the fluorescent lighting. The design is unmistakable to anyone who has seen it before. To anyone who knows the legend. Flynn's grandfather showed him a photograph once. Classified briefing from 1953. Korea. A group of Marines standing in front of a tent. One man shirtless in the background. A tattoo visible on his back. Two dragons. Balanced. His grandfather never explained. Said only, some programs are so classified they remain secret even after everyone involved is dead. Flynn's eyes widen. His voice comes out as barely a whisper. That's the dragon balance. The words detonate like a shaped charge. The laughter dies. The smiles fade. Phones lower with trembling hands. Everyone who has served long enough knows the legend, the myth, the ghost story told in hushed voices when the beer flows and the war stories begin. Dragon balance, established by Kennedy, 12 operators, no more, no less. Deep cover, elite beyond elite. Operators so classified their existence is denied to Congress, to the Joint Chiefs, to everyone except those who need to know. Only 12 living people carry the marking. And one of them is standing in the Fort Maxwell canteen in a gray t-shirt, having just been ordered to strip by a staff sergeant who thought she was a lost civilian. The girl's hands pause, lower the shirt back into place, covering the dragons, but the damage is done. The truth revealed. She looks at Garrison. Her blue eyes are no longer wide with fear. They are calm, cold, calculating. The eyes of an apex predator who has been playing the role of prey. "My name," she says quietly, "is Lieutenant Aurora Callahan, United States Navy, SEAL Team 6, Dragon Balance Operator, Generation 12, call sign Ghost." The silence that follows is absolute, the kind of silence that occurs when reality fundamentally shifts, when the world everyone thought they understood reveals itself to be something entirely different. And in that silence in the corner of the canteen, Donovan Thatcher stands straight, removes his janitor shirt, lets it fall to the floor. His white undershirt reveals the same tattoo, identical dragons, same perfect artistry, but older, the ink more faded, decades against skin showing in the slight blur of lines that were once razor sharp. He looks at Aurora, she looks at him, a moment of connection, teacher and student, master and apprentice, the culmination of 10 years of preparation. "Master Sergeant Donovan Thatcher," he says. His voice fills the canteen. 49 years of authority compressed into syllables. Dragon Balance Operator, Generation 1, recruited 1976, currently serving as Lieutenant Callahan's observer and backup. Colonel Montgomery's hand snaps to salute before his conscious mind processes the command. 40 years of military discipline. When you see the Dragon Balance, you salute. No exceptions, no questions. "Dragon Actual," he says. "Protocol requires the formal call sign. Dragon Ghost, I had no idea, no warning. No briefing indicated." "You were not supposed to know, Colonel," Aurora says. Her voice has transformed completely. Gone is the soft uncertainty. Now her words carry the confidence of someone accustomed to command, to life and death decisions, to operations that exist in shadows between nations. That was the entire point. She takes a step toward Garrison. He flinches, actually flinches. The predator has become prey. The dominant has become subordinate. His entire worldview collapses in real time. Aurora stops 3 feet from him, studies his face, sees the fear there, the realization, the understanding of what he has done. "Sergeant Blackwood," she says softly, "would you like to continue the inspection? Or shall we discuss why I'm really here?" Garrison Blackwood's world collapses in the space between heartbeats. One moment he is the apex predator, the alpha, the man who controls this space through force of will and muscle and the casual cruelty that comes from never being challenged. The next moment he is standing before a woman who carries the Dragon Balance, a mark so rare, so classified that most soldiers serve entire careers without meeting someone who bears it. He has not just insulted her, he has ordered her to strip, in front of 200 witnesses, all of it recorded on phones that are now frantically being locked and hidden and desperately deleted. Aurora Callahan stands perfectly still. The gray t-shirt covers the dragons again, but their presence burns in every mind. She is small, delicate even, but the authority that radiates from her now is absolute. She does not need to raise her voice, does not need to threaten. Her presence alone is enough. "Lieutenant Callahan," Colonel Montgomery's salute remains rigid. "I apologize for the circumstances of this revelation. If I had known, at ease, Colonel." Aurora's voice has transformed completely. Gone is the soft uncertainty, the frightened whisper. Now her words carry the confidence of someone accustomed to life and death decisions. "You couldn't have known. That was the point." She turns slowly, taking in every face, every phone, every shocked expression. "My orders were to observe and assess base security protocols under deep cover, to identify cultural vulnerabilities that foreign intelligence services could exploit." Her gaze settles on Garrison. "Sergeant Blackwood's behavior has provided extensive data. The implications crash through the canteen like a shockwave. This was not an accident, not a case of mistaken identity. Aurora Callahan came here deliberately, allowed herself to be humiliated, documented everything." Garrison's legs threaten to give out. He forces them to lock, to hold. In the corner, Donovan Thatcher pulls his janitor shirt back on over his white t-shirt, covers the dragon, becomes invisible again. But his eyes remain sharp, watchful, proud. This is Aurora's moment. not his. He is backup, support, the foundation she stands on, but not the structure itself. Vivian Sterling finds her voice. Lieutenant, we had no way of knowing. The orders seemed what Captain, Aurora's eyes lock on Vivian, seemed fake because a woman presented them, seemed impossible because someone small and blonde couldn't possibly be qualified. Vivian's mouth opens, closes, no words come. Would you have questioned these orders if they were carried by a 6-foot male ranger? Aurora asks. The question is rhetorical. They both know the answer. Flynn Ashford stands frozen. His mind races. This woman, this tiny woman who he tried to defend, she is Dragon Balance, Generation 12. She has forgotten more about combat than he will learn in 10 careers. And he stood up for her, challenged his sergeant, risked his career. Aurora's eyes find him. Hold. Something passes between them. Acknowledgement. Respect. Private Ashford, her voice softens slightly. You spoke when others remained silent. You stood when others sat. Remember that feeling, that choice. It will define who you become. Flynn snaps to attention. Yes, ma'am. Aurora nods, turns back to the larger group. Dragon Balance was established in 1963 by executive order. President Kennedy recognized that the greatest threat to American military power was not external enemies. It was internal corruption, cultural rot, the kind of toxic leadership that creates exploitable vulnerabilities. She begins to pace, not nervous energy, controlled movement, a lecturer presenting information. 12 operators per generation, no more, no less. Each generation is trained by the previous. We are ghosts, guardians. We operate in shadows to protect the light. She gestures to Thatcher. Master Sergeant Thatcher is Generation 1, recruited in 1976 during the height of the Cold War. He has spent 49 years serving this mission. Thatcher gives a slight nod, says nothing. This is her briefing. I am Generation 12, the most recent, recruited in 2015. Aurora's eyes sweep the room. I have spent 10 years training for this work, 10 years learning to blend in, to appear weak, to endure humiliation without breaking cover. Montgomery processes this. Tonight was your final examination. In a manner of speaking, yes. Aurora's smile is cold, but the exam was not for me, Colonel. It was for Fort Maxwell, for its personnel, for its leadership. Garrison feels the weight of those words settle on his shoulders like a burial shroud. Dragon Balance does not just identify external threats, Aurora continues. We identify internal ones. Leaders who create toxic cultures, who use rank as a weapon, who mistake cruelty for strength. Her gaze returns to Garrison. These leaders are security risks, because soldiers who feel powerless, who believe the system is rigged against them, become vulnerable to foreign recruitment. The tactical display on her wrist vibrates. She glances down, her expression shifts, hardens. And speaking of foreign threats, she says quietly, we have a situation. She taps the screen, projects a holographic map of Fort Maxwell onto the wall. Red dots appear, moving, converging. Captain Lucian Graves, Aurora's voice is ice, sitting in the corner booth for the past 3 hours. CIA credentials, assigned to base security oversight. Perfect cover. All eyes turn to the corner booth where a man in civilian clothes sits with a newspaper. He does not look up, does not move. But something in his stillness is wrong. Captain Graves is a Russian SVR sleeper agent, Aurora says. Activated 8 months ago. His mission has been to identify and document base security protocols, to find vulnerabilities, to prepare for a larger operation. Montgomery's hand moves toward his sidearm. Aurora raises a hand, stops him. He knows he's made. Aurora's eyes remain on the display. Has known since the moment I revealed my identity. Right now, he is activating emergency extraction protocols. As if on cue, the lights die. Complete darkness descends. Emergency lighting kicks in after 3 seconds. Red bulbs casting everything in bloody shadows. He has a team, Aurora says calmly. No fear, just tactical assessment. Russian Spetsnaz, probably 15 operators, former special forces, highly trained. Their objective is to eliminate all witnesses to his presence here and extract what the intelligence he has gathered. Panic ripples through the crowd. Soldiers stand, reach for sidearms that are not present. This is a canteen, not a combat zone, except now it is both. Aurora's voice cuts through the rising chaos like a blade. Everyone remain calm, stay low, do not try to leave. She moves to the center of the room. Fluid, controlled, every motion economical. Colonel Montgomery, I need you to initiate lockdown protocol Sierra 7 that will seal the exterior doors and buy us time. Montgomery nods, pulls his phone, begins issuing orders. Aurora turns to Thatcher. For a moment their eyes meet. An entire conversation passes in silence. Teacher and student, master and apprentice. 49 years of experience meeting 10 years of perfected skill. Sergeant Thatcher, Aurora says formally, I need you to secure the civilians in the kitchen area, establish a defensive perimeter, protect the witnesses. Thatcher straightens. What about you? This is my mission, my responsibility. Aurora's voice is steel. You trained me for this. Now let me do the work. For a moment it seems Thatcher might object, might pull rank or age or experience, but he sees something in her eyes that stops him. She is ready, fully ready. This is her moment to step from shadow into light. Understood, Lieutenant. Ying, Thatcher's voice carries pride. Give them hell, Ghost. Aurora nods, turns to Garrison. He stands frozen, mind racing, unable to process the shift from hunter to hunted. Sergeant Blackwood, Aurora's voice snaps him to attention on instinct. I know you think I am weak, unqualified, a security risk. She pauses. You are about to learn otherwise. Follow my orders exactly. Do you understand? Garrison swallows, nods. Yes, ma'am. Outstanding. Aurora pulls a small device from her pocket, presses a button. The windows of the canteen suddenly darken. Smart glass, opaque, no visibility in or out. We have approximately 8 minutes before they breach. In that time, I am going to turn this canteen into a killing field. She moves to a supply closet, opens it, begins pulling items, kitchen supplies, cleaning chemicals, electrical components. Her hands move with impossible speed. Muscle memory from 10 years of training in urban warfare. Not jungle combat, not desert warfare. The brutal close quarters tactics developed in Cold War Berlin, in Prague, in Budapest, where victory meant surviving long enough for extraction in cities filled with enemies. Private Ashford, Aurora's voice is sharp. You are now my communications runner. Can you handle that? Flynn snaps to attention. Yes, ma'am. Good. When I give the signal, you sprint to the admin building. Find the duty officer. Give them this code. She rattles off a string of numbers and letters. Repeat it. Flynn does. Perfect recall. They will initiate base-wide alert and call for backup. You will have approximately 90 seconds to make that run before the kill zone becomes active. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am? Aurora's hands continue their work. She is building something, multiple somethings, improvised devices using materials no one would consider weapons. Vivian approaches, cautious. Lieutenant, what can I do? Aurora glances at her, calculates, decides. Take all female personnel to the second-floor kitchen. Seal the door. Do not open it for anyone who does not give the code word Ironside. Clear. Clear. Go. Vivian moves. For once in her career, she follows orders without question or ego. She gathers the female soldiers, leads them upstairs. Aurora returns to her preparations. Garrison watches, unable to look away. She is transforming the familiar space of the canteen into something else entirely. Chairs become barricades. Tables become cover positions. The soda fountain becomes a chemical weapon when certain cleaning supplies are introduced to the carbonation system. Sergeant Blackwood, Aurora does not look up from her work. You wanted to know if I am qualified for this uniform. Watch closely. You are about to receive an education. A sound from outside, muffled, distant, but unmistakable to trained ears. Breaching charges. They are coming through the east wall, Aurora says calmly. Textbook, Spetsnaz 3-point entry. They will establish crossfire positions and attempt to eliminate targets with overwhelming firepower. She finishes her last improvised device, places it carefully, steps back, surveys her work. The canteen is now a maze. Every approach angle is covered. Every piece of cover conceals a surprise. Every shadow hides a trap. Aurora moves to the center, pulls her hair down from the messy bun, shakes it loose, pulls it back into a tight tactical braid. The transformation is complete. No more civilian, no more frightened girl. This is Ghost, Dragon Balance Operator, trained by the best to be better than the best. Sergeant Thatcher, she calls. Civilians secure, affirmative. His voice comes from the kitchen area. Private Ashford, on my mark, you run. Do not stop. Do not look back. Understand? Yes, ma'am, Colonel Montgomery. How long until backup arrives? Montgomery checks his phone. 15 minutes minimum. Then we hold for 15 minutes. Aurora's smile is predatory. Sergeant Blackwood, you are with me. You wanted to see what I can do? You are about to get a front row seat. The east wall explodes inward. Not dramatically, professionally, precisely. A shaped charge that creates an entry point without collapsing the structure. Smoke billows. Red emergency lights create hellish shadows. Through the smoke, figures move. Black tactical gear. Night vision goggles. Weapons at the ready. Moving in perfect coordination. 15 Spetsnaz operators. The elite of Russian special forces. Each one a veteran of Chechnya or Syria or Ukraine. Each one trained to kill efficiently and without hesitation. They enter expecting civilians. Untrained soldiers. Easy targets. They find Aurora Callahan waiting. She does not hide, does not take cover. She stands in the center of the canteen in her gray t-shirt and dark pants. Small, blonde, seemingly defenseless. The lead operator sees her, raises his weapon, opens his mouth to shout orders. Aurora moves. The speed is inhuman. 10 years of training compressed into explosive motion. She covers the distance to the nearest table in less than a second, kicks it. The table flips, crashes into 2 operators. They go down. The improvised devices Aurora planted activate. The soda fountain explodes. Not fire. Chemical irritant. Military-grade CS gas mixed with carbonation creates a choking cloud that fills half the canteen. Night vision goggles become useless. Worse than useless. The flare of chemical reaction blinds anyone looking through enhanced optics. The Spetsnaz training takes over. They switch to thermal imaging, search for heat signatures. But Aurora is gone, melted into the shadows, using the maze of barricades she created, moving like smoke, like a ghost. Her voice comes from the darkness, calm, almost amused. You are in my house now. You follow my rules. The lead operator shouts commands in Russian. His team responds, establishing defensive positions, creating overlapping fields of fire. Excellent tactics. Professional. Exactly what Aurora expected. Exactly what she trained for. The first kill is silent. An operator separated from his team by 3 feet. Not much, but enough. Aurora appears behind him, one hand over his mouth, the other holding a knife she pulled from the kitchen. Across the throat. Down. She takes his weapon, a PP-2000 submachine gun, Russian Special Forces standard. She checks the magazine. Full. 30 rounds. She does not need 30. The second and third kills come in rapid succession. Short controlled bursts. 2 rounds each. Center mass. The operators drop without sound beyond the impact of bodies hitting floor. The team leader realizes what is happening, calls for tighter formation. No more separation. Everyone within visual contact. Good tactics. But Aurora is already adapting. She activates another device. This one, electrical. Overloads the emergency lighting. For 3 seconds, total darkness returns. 3 seconds is an eternity in combat. When the lights return, 5 more operators are down. Aurora is gone again. The weapon she used is discarded. Empty. The team leader's voice rises, panic bleeding through professional calm. He has lost half his team in less than 2 minutes. Against one target, One small woman who should not be able to do this. Garrison watches from his position behind overturned tables. Aurora ordered him to stay put, to observe, to learn. He is learning that everything he thought he knew about combat was incomplete. Aurora is not fighting with strength. She is fighting with intelligence, with preparation, with the kind of tactical thinking that turns disadvantages into advantages. She is smaller than every opponent, lighter, less muscle mass. In a straight fight, she would lose. So she does not fight straight. She fights like smoke, like shadow, like the ghost her call sign promises. The remaining Spetsnaz operators cluster near the breach point, establishing a defensive position. Calling for backup, Aurora's voice comes from above. They look up. She is on the rafters. How did she get there? When did she move? You have two options. She calls down, surrender and live, or continue and die. Choose now. The team leader's response is to raise his weapon, spray the rafters with automatic fire. Aurora is already gone. Drop to a different position. Behind them now, she takes the team leader first. Close quarters, hand to hand. No weapons, just brutal, efficient violence learned in training facilities that do not officially exist. She breaks his arm, dislocates his knee, takes his sidearm, uses it to eliminate the two operators closest to him. The last three operators break. Training forgotten, survival instinct taking over. They run for the breach point. Aurora lets them go, watches them flee into the night. She does not pursue. Her mission is not elimination. It is protection. The witnesses are safe. The threat is neutralized. She lowers the weapon, breathes, controlled, measured, not winded despite the violence. Garrison emerges from cover, stares at the carnage. 8 bodies, 8 elite operators dead or disabled in less than 4 minutes by one woman who weighs maybe 115 pounds. How? His voice is barely a whisper. Aurora looks at him. You asked me to prove I am qualified, Sergeant. Have I done so to your satisfaction? Before he can answer, a sound from the shadows. Movement. Someone who was missed in the chaos. Captain Lucian Graves steps into the light. He holds a pistol, not pointed at Aurora, pointed at Flynn Ashford, who made his run to the admin building and is now returning. Very impressive, Lieutenant Callahan. Graves's accent is slight, years of practice hiding his Russian origins. But now we have a problem. This young man dies unless you let me walk away. Flynn freezes, eyes wide, a gun to his head. Aurora's face shows nothing. No fear, no concern, just calculation. Graves backs toward the breach point, using Flynn as a shield. I have intelligence worth millions. My government will pay. Your government will pay to keep it secret. Everyone wins if you let me walk. No, Aurora's voice is flat. Everyone loses if you walk. Then the boy dies. Then you die and the boy lives. Graves laughs. You cannot make that shot. Not without hitting him. The angle is impossible. From the kitchen area, Thatcher's voice carries. She can make the shot. Graves's eyes flick to the corner. Sees Thatcher standing there. Old. White-haired. Not a threat. His attention returns to Aurora. Fatal mistake. Aurora's hand moves to her waist, pulls something, throws. Not a knife. A salt shaker from the kitchen. It hits Graves in the face. Not hard, just enough to make him flinch. Close his eyes for half a second. Aurora moves. Covers the distance. Her hand finds Graves's wrist. Twists. The gun comes free. Spins through the air. Flynn drops. Rolls clear. Aurora catches the gun, reverses it, presses it under Graves's jaw. You were saying her voice is ice. Graves tries to fight, tries to use his training, but Aurora is faster, better. She breaks his resistance in 3 moves. He goes down hard, face first, arms behind his back. Thatcher produces zip ties from somewhere, secures Graves's wrists, ankles. Clear, Aurora says. The tension breaks. Soldiers emerge from cover. The female personnel come down from the 2nd floor. Everyone stares. At the bodies, at the unconscious Russian sleeper agent, at the small blonde woman who did all of this alone. Montgomery approaches. His face is pale. Lieutenant Callahan, that was... I have no words. No words necessary, sir. Aurora holsters the weapon. Just doing my job. Sirens approach outside. Backup arriving. Military police. Medical teams. The machinery of response activating. Aurora looks at Thatcher. He nods. Pride evident in his weathered face. Well done, Ghost, he says quietly. Well done. She smiles, small, genuine. I had a good teacher. No, Thatcher corrects. You had an adequate teacher. You became an excellent student. Garrison stands apart, processing. His entire worldview has been shattered and rebuilt in the space of 15 minutes. Aurora approaches him. Sergeant Blackwood, do you now understand why your behavior was dangerous? He nods, cannot speak. Good. Remember this feeling, this lesson. You will need it for what comes next. What comes next? His voice cracks. Aurora's smile is cold. Your judgment and your chance at redemption. To be continued. The sun rises over Fort Maxwell 6 hours after the siege. Dawn light spills across concrete and steel, transforms blood into rust, makes the destroyed East Wall look almost artistic in its devastation. Military police have cordoned off the canteen, yellow tape, armed guards, investigators moving through the wreckage with cameras and evidence bags. 8 bodies in black tactical gear wait for transport to the morgue. Captain Lucian Graves sits in a holding cell at Fort Meade silent, knowing his life is measured now in hours, not years. In the base commander's office, Aurora Callahan stands before a window. She has showered, changed into a fresh uniform. Proper fit now, not the oversized jacket of her disguise. Her hair is pulled back in regulation style, the dragon balance hidden beneath layers of fabric. She looks 28, feels ancient. Behind her, Colonel Montgomery reviews preliminary reports. His hands shake slightly. Post-combat adrenaline. The realization of how close his base came to catastrophic failure. Lieutenant Callahan, his voice is rough from shouting orders through the night. The Joint Chiefs are requesting a full briefing. Homeland Security, FBI, CIA. Everyone wants to know how a Russian sleeper network penetrated this deep without detection. Aurora does not turn from the window. Watches the sun climb. Watches soldiers moving across the parade ground. Life continuing despite the violence of the night before. They penetrated because we allowed vulnerabilities to exist, Colonel. Not in our firewalls, not in our encryption. In our culture. She pauses. A soldier who feels powerless does not report irregularities. They assume no one will listen. No one will care. That silence creates blind spots. Those blind spots become entry points. Montgomery sets down the reports, rubs his eyes. 63 years old, and he has never felt more tired. You are referring to Sergeant Blackwood. Among others, Aurora finally turns. Her blue eyes are clear despite the exhaustion. This is not about one man, sir. This is about the system that enabled him, that rewarded aggression and mistook cruelty for competence. What do you recommend? Aurora moves to his desk, pulls a thick file from her bag, sets it down with the weight of something important. The cover reads, Dragon Vigil Protocols, classified. Dragon Balance does not just identify threats, Colonel. We eliminate them, then we rebuild. Stronger, resistant to future infection. She opens the file, pages of detailed procedures, psychological frameworks, training curricula. These protocols have been tested at 17 installations worldwide over the past decade. Fort Maxwell will be the 18th. Montgomery begins reading. His expression shifts from weariness to interest to something approaching cautious optimism. This is comprehensive, he says. Cultural transformation from command level to newest recruit, leadership development, psychological screening, peer accountability structures built into daily operations. It works, Aurora says simply, but it requires total commitment from you, from every officer, from every soldier. Everyone must participate. Everyone must evolve. How long for full implementation? 3 months for structural changes. 6 months to see measurable cultural shift. 1 year to achieve sustainable transformation. Aurora's voice softens slightly. But it begins today, with accountability, with consequences, with the offer of redemption. Montgomery studies her face, sees something there beyond the exhaustion, a kind of hope mixed with steel resolve. You want to make examples. I want to offer second chances. Aurora pulls another document, hands it across the desk. My recommendations for personnel actions. They are severe but not final. Everyone involved will have the opportunity to prove they can change, to demonstrate they can become better than they were. Montgomery reads the list. His eyebrows rise. You are being remarkably lenient given what happened. I am being strategic, Aurora corrects. Punishment without path to rehabilitation creates resentment. Resentment festers, becomes exploitable. I would rather convert a former antagonist into an advocate than leave him as a potential vulnerability. A knock at the door. A young sergeant enters, fresh-faced, barely 20. Sir, the Personnel Review Board is assembled. They are ready when you are. Aurora straightens her uniform, checks her reflection in the window. The woman looking back is someone different than the frightened civilian who entered the canteen last night. That woman was a mask, a tool, a necessary deception. This woman is real. This is Ghost, Dragon Balance Operator, and she has work to do. Time for judgment, Colonel. The base conference room has been converted into a hearing space. Not a court-martial. Not yet. This is preliminary, administrative. But the weight of it fills the air like electricity before a storm. Garrison Blackwood stands at attention in the center of the room. His uniform is perfect. Every crease sharp, every ribbon aligned. His face is composed, but his eyes betray him. Fear, shame, the knowledge that his entire life is balanced on a knife edge. Behind him stands Vivian Sterling. She has not slept. Dark circles beneath her eyes. Makeup cannot hide the evidence of crying. Her usual confidence has evaporated, replaced by a hollow uncertainty. To the side, Flynn Ashford waits. He alone among the accused seems calm, his grandfather's voice steady in his memory. Honor means accepting consequences. Courage means facing them without excuse. Around the room's perimeter, witnesses stand. Senior NCOs, company commanders, people who have served with Garrison, who have watched his rise, who must now watch his fall. Colonel Montgomery sits at the head table. To his right, Master Sergeant Donovan Thatcher in full-dress uniform. The Dragon Balance visible on his service record for the first time in 49 years. Ribbons spanning 5 decades. Operations that exist only in classified archives. To Montgomery's left, Aurora, her file open. 3 months of documentation. Video evidence. Audio recordings. Witness statements. The complete record of Garrison's campaign of psychological intimidation. Montgomery calls the proceedings to order. This hearing is convened to address security violations, conduct unbecoming, and abuse of authority at Fort Maxwell. Lieutenant Callahan, present your findings. Aurora stands, does not need to consult notes. Every detail is carved into her memory. Staff Sergeant Garrison Blackwood. Her voice carries to every corner without rising in volume. Command presence. Authority earned, not demanded. Over the past 90 days, you have demonstrated a consistent pattern of behavior characterized by psychological intimidation, abuse of rank, creation of hostile work environment, and direct contribution to security vulnerabilities that were successfully exploited by hostile foreign intelligence services. Garrison's jaw clenches. A muscle twitches in his cheek, but he remains silent, at attention, taking it. Your actions created a culture where soldiers feared reporting irregularities, where personnel felt isolated and vulnerable, where the chain of command appeared complicit in abuse. Aurora pauses, lets each word land. This culture directly enabled Captain Graves to operate undetected for 8 months. Your leadership failures have national security implications, Sergeant. The room is absolutely silent. Someone coughs. It sounds like thunder. Under standard procedures, Aurora continues, these violations would result in immediate reduction to lowest enlisted rank, forfeiture of all pay and allowances, and dishonorable discharge with recommendation for criminal prosecution. Garrison's face goes pale. Vivian makes a small sound, quickly suppressed. However, Aurora's tone shifts, softens almost imperceptibly. Last night during active combat operations, you displayed capacity for growth. You followed lawful orders under extreme stress. You prioritized civilian safety over personal survival. You demonstrated physical courage when it was required. Garrison's eyes flick up. Meet hers. Surprise registers. This suggests to me that your failures are not fundamental character defects. They are learned behaviors. Survival mechanisms developed in response to trauma you have not adequately processed. Aurora takes a step closer. And learned behaviors can be unlearned. If the individual is willing to do the difficult work of change. She looks to Montgomery. He nods. My recommendation is as follows. Immediate reduction in rank to Private E2. Formal letter of reprimand and permanent service record. Forfeiture of half pay for 12 months. And mandatory enrollment in the Dragon Balance Observation and Rehabilitation Program. Murmurs ripple through the room. The Dragon Balance Program is legendary, mythical. Almost no one outside Special Operations even knows it exists. You will spend the next 6 months in intensive training, Aurora says, not physical conditioning. You are already physically capable. This will be psychological. You will undergo trauma therapy. You will study case histories of failed leadership. You will learn to recognize the patterns of your own behavior and develop tools to interrupt them. She moves to stand directly in front of Garrison, close enough that only he can hear her next words clearly. At the end of 6 months, you will face another review. If you have demonstrated genuine growth, you will be offered a path back to NCO rank through merit-based progression. If you have not, you will be discharged. The choice is entirely yours, Private Blackwood. Garrison's voice is hoarse, barely audible. Why? Why give me this opportunity? Aurora's expression softens. For just a moment, the hard edge of the operator fades. Something more human shows through. 10 years ago, I was 18 years old, foster kid, angry at the world, violence in my heart, and nowhere productive to channel it. I was 3 days from enlisting just to have somewhere to belong, to have purpose. She pauses. Master Sergeant Thatcher found me. He could have walked past, could have let me become another statistic. Instead, he saw potential beneath the anger. He gave me tools, direction, purpose. She steps back, voice returning to professional tone. Everyone deserves one chance at redemption, Private Blackwood. One opportunity to become better than their worst moment. Do not waste yours. The use of his reduced rank is deliberate. No longer staff sergeant. Private, the lowest enlisted grade. Starting over from the foundation. Garrison swallows hard, nods. I understand, ma'am. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. The work ahead will be harder than anything you have experienced. But if you commit to it fully, you can emerge as the leader you should have been all along. Aurora turns to Vivian, Captain Sterling, front and center. Vivian steps forward, moves like someone walking to execution. Her hands shake. She clasps them behind her back to hide it. Your participation in systematic harassment, your failure to intervene despite clear authority to do so, and your active encouragement of hostile environment constitute violations of officer standards. Aurora's tone is firm, but not cruel. You will be reduced to first lieutenant, formal reprimand and permanent record, and mandatory completion of the Female Officer Leadership Development Program. Vivian nods. Yes, ma'am. Additionally, Aurora continues, you will design and implement a peer mentorship program for female personnel at Fort Maxwell. You will build a support structure you wish had existed when you were navigating your own career development. You will become the leader other women need. Can you do that, Lieutenant? Something shifts in Vivian's expression, a spark of something beyond fear and shame. Purpose, perhaps, or determination. Yes, ma'am, I can, I will. See that you do. Aurora holds her gaze for a moment longer, then turns to Flynn. Private Ashford, front and center. Flynn moves forward, perfect bearing, eyes forward, heart pounding but ready to accept whatever judgment comes. Aurora's expression changes, warms noticeably. Last night you displayed moral courage of the highest order. You challenged authority when you believed it was wrong. You stood alone when it would have been easier to remain silent. You volunteered for hazardous duty with weird hesitation. You completed your mission under fire despite personal injury. She produces a small case from her pocket. Opens it, a purple heart rests inside. Flynn's eyes widen. You sustained injury in combat while conducting essential communications under hostile fire. This award is yours by right and regulation. Aurora pins it to his chest, steps back, salutes formally. Flynn returns it, his hand trembling slightly. Additionally, you are promoted to Corporal E4 effective immediately. Your demonstrated leadership and judgment exceed your current grade. You have earned this advancement through character, not just competence. Flynn's voice cracks. Thank you, ma'am. Aurora reaches into another pocket, produces something small. Brass, worn smooth by years of handling. This compass was given to me on my first day of training 10 years ago. It has guided me through operations on 4 continents, through situations where technology failed and only fundamental skills mattered. She places it in his hand. I pass it to you now, not as gift, as responsibility, to always seek true north, to never compromise your moral bearing regardless of external pressure. Flynn's fingers close around the compass. It is still warm from her pocket. In 10 years, Corporal, if you continue to serve with the character you demonstrated last night, I want you to find me. Because Dragon Balance is always seeking operators who understand that courage is more than physical bravery. That real strength manifests in the choice to do right when doing wrong would be easier. I will, ma'am. You have my word. Aurora nods. Dismissed, Corporal. The proceedings continue another hour. Other personnel are called, commended, or counseled. The machinery of military justice grinds forward, not perfectly, but deliberately, with intention to build rather than merely punish. When it concludes, Aurora finds Thatcher waiting in the corridor outside. He leans against the wall, arms crossed, face thoughtful. You handled that well, he says. I followed the example you set. Aurora allows herself a small smile. Firm but fair, accountability with path to redemption. No, Thatcher shakes his head. I taught you the framework, but what you did in there, the wisdom in knowing when to push and when to support, that came from you, not from me. Aurora feels unexpected emotion rise, pushes it down with practiced ease. What happens now? Thatcher's expression grows serious. Now I need to brief you on something the CIA intercepted 3 hours ago. We have a problem. They move to a secure conference room. Thatcher activates the encryption field, pulls up classified intelligence on a secure tablet. Captain Graves installed a failsafe before he was captured. Thatcher says, dead man's switch on encrypted servers. If he does not authenticate every 72 hours detailed intelligence on Dragon Balance operations, names, locations, protocols, everything gets automatically released to every hostile intelligence service we have ever opposed. Aurora's mind races through possibilities, implications, cascading failures. How long until the deadline? 46 hours. The countdown started when we detained him. Can we force him to provide authentication codes? He is Russian SVR, trained to resist enhanced interrogation. Even if we broke him, we risk him providing false codes that trigger immediate release rather than delay. Aurora studies the data, traces the digital architecture, identifies the pattern beneath the complexity. Where are the servers physically located? Thatcher's smile is grim. Prague, old city, very appropriate. How appropriate? The server is in a basement beneath a bookshop. Different bookshop than 1976. Same general district. Graves has a sense of irony. Aurora's smile matches his. Cold. Predatory. Then I go to Prague. I eliminate the threat. I do it alone. Ghost. This is my mission, Sergeant Thatcher. My responsibility as senior active Dragon operator. She meets his eyes. You trained me for exactly this scenario. Solo infiltration, time-sensitive target, high-consequence failure. Let me do the work. Thatcher studies her face, sees the certainty there, the readiness. After a long moment, he nods. Wheels up in 2 hours. I will coordinate logistics and provide remote support. But the execution is yours. Understood. 18 hours later, Aurora moves through Prague's old city like smoke given form. Dawn breaks over ancient architecture. Church spires pierce low-hanging clouds. Cobblestone streets, still wet from overnight rain. She wears civilian clothes. Dark jeans, leather jacket, hair pulled back under a cap. Nondescript, forgettable. The tourist who blends into crowds. But her eyes miss nothing, catalog everything, identify patterns of surveillance, routes of approach, escape vectors. The bookshop is on a narrow street in Stare Miesto, Old Town. The sign above the door advertises rare books in Czech and German. Very exclusive, very discreet, very perfect for hiding something valuable. Aurora does not approach directly, spends 6 hours establishing the pattern. Who enters? Who leaves? The rhythm of normal business. At 0300 local time, when the street is empty and the legitimate bookseller is home sleeping, Aurora makes her approach. The locks are good. Electronic, biometric backup, military-grade security poorly disguised as civilian system. Aurora does not try to bypass them. Instead, she goes to the building next door. A cafe, also closed, also locked, but with commercial security. Much easier. She is inside in 90 seconds. Through the cafe, into the basement, finding the maintenance tunnels that connect the old buildings. Infrastructure from when Prague was Habsburg, then Nazi, then Soviet, then free. Layers of history literally beneath the surface. The tunnel brings her to a junction point, a wall that should be stone but is actually reinforced concrete. Modern, recently installed. Behind this wall is the bookshop basement, the server room, the target. Aurora could breach the wall with explosives, but noise draws attention. Instead, she does something simpler. She finds the electrical junction box, the one that feeds power to the entire block, including the bookshop, including the climate-controlled server room with its backup generators and redundant power supplies. She studies the configuration, understands the system in minutes, then begins rewiring. Not to cut power, to overload it. She works for 30 minutes, precise, methodical, creating a cascade failure that will trigger when the morning power load increases, when Prague wakes up and 1,000 coffee makers activate simultaneously. She plants a secondary device, a remote electromagnetic pulse generator, shielded, directional, aimed at the server room through the concrete wall. Then she leaves. Same route, same silence, disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness like she was never there. At 0630, Prague wakes, coffee makers activate, lights turn on, the power grid experiences its normal morning surge. The rewired junction box handles it for exactly 8 seconds, then catastrophically fails. The power surge races through inadequate insulation, hits the bookshop's electrical system with 3 times normal voltage. Circuit breakers should trip, should isolate the damage. But Aurora rewired those too. The surge hits the server room, fries the primary power supply. Backup generators auto-activate. Aurora, watching from a cafe across the street with a cappuccino and a newspaper, triggers the EMP device. The electromagnetic pulse is focused, directional, does not affect the surrounding buildings, only the server room, every hard drive, every solid-state storage device, every electronic component, reduced to expensive trash in microseconds. The dead man's switch triggers, tries to send its payload of classified intelligence to hostile services worldwide. But there is nothing to send. The data is gone, erased at the molecular level, unrecoverable even with advanced forensics. Aurora finishes her cappuccino, leaves exact change on the table, walks to the tram stop, catches the 7:15 to the airport. By the time Czech authorities investigate the electrical fire at the bookshop, by the time they discover the destroyed server room, Aurora is 30,000 feet over Germany flying home. She sends a brief encrypted message to Thatcher, package destroyed, problem solved. Coming home. His response is immediate. Well done, Ghost. Ceremony in 48 hours. Do not be late. 2 days later, Fort Meade, Maryland, National Security Agency headquarters. The most secure military installation in the United States. A ceremony room deep underground. No windows, no cameras, maximum occupancy 50, current attendance 41. At the front of the room, a simple podium bearing the NSA seal. Behind it, 7 men in full dress uniform. The oldest is 84, the youngest is 63. Between them, they represent over 300 years of classified service. These are the surviving operators of Dragon Balance generations 1 through 7. The old guard, the foundation upon which everything since has been built. Each wears their dragon balance marking visible on official documentation for the first time. A statement, a declaration. After decades in shadow, this moment in light, Master Sergeant Donovan Thatcher stands among them. 74 years old, white hair, weathered face, eyes still sharp, still assessing, still the operator despite the approaching end of his service. Aurora sits in the front row, full dress uniform, medals for operations she can never discuss, ribbons from deployments that officially did not occur. The dragon balance listed in her service record now. No more hiding, no more pretending. Beside her, Colonel Montgomery. He requested permission to attend, to witness this transition. Permission granted because he is one of the few outside dragon balance who knows the program exists. The ceremony begins without preamble. No speeches, no pageantry. Dragon balance does not celebrate. It acknowledges, it honors, it continues. The oldest operator stands, General Edmund Reeves, 84 years old. He received his dragon balance marking from President Kennedy's own CIA director in 1963. The first, the foundation, the legend. His voice is thin but steady. Carries the authority of 6 decades of service. We gathered to mark a transition. Master Sergeant Donovan Thatcher, recruited 1976 Generation 1, retires after 49 years of continuous service. His student Lieutenant Aurora Callahan, recruited 2015 Generation 12, assumes operational authority as Senior Active Dragon Balance Operator. Reeves's eyes find Aurora. Hold her gaze. This marks another significant transition. For the first time in our 62-year history, the senior operator is female. Some might perceive this as change. I perceive it as evolution. The mission remains constant. The threats adapt. Therefore, the warriors must adapt, must evolve, must become what each new generation requires. He gestures Aurora forward. She rises, moves to the front of the room, stands beside Thatcher. Reeves produces a wooden box, simple, unadorned, aged by decades. Opens it carefully. Inside rests a medal unlike any official military decoration. No government seal. No official designation. Just a dragon. Coiled, balanced between shadow and light, cast in silver that has tarnished to the color of smoke. This medal was struck in 1963, Reeves says. Only 12 exist. Each passes from generation to generation. I received mine from Director McCone at Langley in November 1963, 3 days before Dallas. I passed it to Master Sergeant Thatcher in Berlin, 1976. Now the chain continues. Thatcher takes the medal with both hands, turns to Aurora. For a long moment, they simply look at each other. Teacher and student, master and apprentice. The summation of 10 years. The beginning of the next 40. When I found you, Thatcher says quietly, you were 18 years old. Foster kid. No family. Angry at a world that had given you nothing but pain and loss. I did not fix you, Aurora. I showed you tools. You did the work. You became this. He pins the medal to her uniform, above her heart, where it will remain until the day she passes it to her own student. The dragon balance is yours now. The mission is yours. The next generation will be yours to train. Guard them well. Teach them better than I taught you. Aurora's voice is steady despite the emotion. I will. You have my word. The assembled operators salute as one, a wall of hands rising in perfect synchronization. Aurora returns it. The weight of 3 centuries of cumulative service settles across her shoulders. She does not buckle. After the ceremony concludes, after formal proceedings end, Aurora finds Thatcher on the observation deck overlooking the Potomac River. He stands alone, watching water flow south toward the Chesapeake. She approaches quietly. He does not turn. I knew you would come, he says. Aurora joins him at the railing. They stand in silence, watching the river, watching the sun descend toward the western horizon. I am afraid, Aurora says. The admission costs her. But Thatcher deserves honesty. Of what? Of failing, of not measuring up to the standard you set, of letting down everyone who came before. Thatcher finally turns. His weathered face is gentle, understanding. You already surpassed me, Ghost. The moment you chose rehabilitation over punishment for Blackwood. The moment you built up instead of tearing down. That is not my teaching. That is your wisdom. But what if I... No, his voice is firm, kind, but absolute. No what ifs. You are ready. You have been ready for years. I stayed this long, not because you needed me, because I needed to see you become fully what I always knew you could be. He reaches into his pocket, produces his dog tags from 1976, the ones he wore in Berlin, the ones that survived operations in Prague and Budapest in East Germany, the ones that carry 49 years of history in their dull metal. You gave me your compass. You passed it to Corporal Ashford. Good. The tools move forward. He presses the tags into her hand. But these stay with you. When you doubt yourself. When the mission seems impossible. When you feel alone. Remember that you carry the legacy of everyone who came before. Their strength is your foundation. Aurora's fingers close around the tags, still warm from his pocket. Thank you, she says, for everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For believing in me when I did not believe in myself. Thank you, Thatcher replies, for making an old soldier's final mission his proudest achievement. They embrace, not the brief military acknowledgement of comrades, the full embrace of family, father and daughter in every way that matters. When they part, Thatcher walks toward the parking lot, toward civilian life, toward the retirement cabin in Montana where fish wait and nothing explodes and the only mission is peace. Aurora watches him go, knows she will not see him in person for years. But they will speak. Video calls, encrypted channels. The bond remains even as the daily partnership ends. She touches the dog tags now hanging around her neck, feels their weight, their history. The balance continues. The mission endures. This chapter closes so the next can begin. 3 months later, Fort Maxwell has transformed. The canteen has been rebuilt. The east wall repaired stronger than before. But the real changes go deeper than architecture. A new facility stands near the parade ground. Modern construction, clean lines. Above the entrance, Callahan Leadership Institute. Inside a classroom, 30 soldiers in a circle. No desks, no barriers. Everyone equal regardless of rank. At the front stands Private Garrison Blackwood. His uniform bears a single chevron, the lowest enlisted rank. But his bearing has fundamentally changed. Gone is the arrogance, the swagger, the need to dominate every space he occupies. Replaced by something harder won. Humility, actual humility, not performance. 3 months ago, he says, I stood in a canteen and demonstrated every failure mode of military leadership. I used physical size to intimidate, rank to dominate. I confused control with competence, power with respect. The soldiers listen. Some were present that night. Others transferred in after. All are here because they want to learn. Lieutenant Callahan could have destroyed my career completely, could have had me court-martialed, dishonorably discharged. Instead, she gave me something more valuable than rank or position. She gave me a mirror, forced me to look at what I had become, and then she gave me tools to build something better. A hand raises. A female private, young. What surprised you most during rehabilitation? Garrison considers carefully. That my fear of appearing weak actually made me weak. That the soldiers I thought respected me actually feared me. And fear is not respect. Fear is not loyalty. Fear is just waiting for the opportunity to escape or retaliate. Another question. Male corporal. Can you actually earn real respect after what you did? I do not know, Garrison admits. But I am going to spend every day for the rest of my career trying. Not through intimidation, not through rank, through service, through being the leader I needed when I was a junior soldier, through proving that people can change if they commit to the work. The class continues, honest, vulnerable, no pretense of having all answers, just the hard work of growth. In another building, First Lieutenant Vivian Sterling facilitates a different kind of session. 60 female officers, private through lieutenant colonel, branches represented. We are conditioned to compete, Vivian says, to view other women as obstacles to advancement in a male-dominated structure. She pauses. I am here to tell you that this conditioning is both understandable and destructive, and we can choose differently. Nervous laughter ripples through the group. For 10 years, I operated on the assumption that being harder than men, meaner than men, more ruthless than men was the path to respect and advancement. Vivian moves through the room, makes eye contact. I was wrong, and my behavior confirmed every negative stereotype about women in leadership positions. A major raises her hand. How do we balance strength with femininity? How do we lead without becoming? She pauses, searching for words. Without becoming me, Vivian finishes. Without becoming the thing we hate, she nods. By supporting each other instead of undermining each other. By building networks instead of burning bridges. By understanding that another woman's success does not diminish our own. She distributes information packets. This is the peer mentorship program Lieutenant Callahan challenged me to develop. Senior officers paired with junior officers. Monthly meetings. Shared experiences. Professional guidance. Creating the support infrastructure none of us had coming up. The response is enthusiastic. Sign-up sheets circulate. Women who have spent careers feeling isolated, suddenly seeing community. Possibility. Strength in unity rather than competition. After the session ends, Vivian finds Aurora waiting in the hallway. Lieutenant Callahan. Vivian's voice carries residual uncertainty. They have not spoken privately since the hearing. Vivian, Aurora's tone is warmer, approachable. How is the program developing? Better than projected. Full enrollment, waiting lists, requests from 3 other installations to implement similar structures. Vivian hesitates. I wanted to thank you for not giving up on me when giving up would have been easier. Aurora smiles slightly. I gave you nothing you did not earn. You did the work. You made the changes. Own that accomplishment. I will. Vivian straightens. And I will make this program something that justifies the second chance you provided. Across the base in the Special Forces training facility, Corporal Flynn Ashford completes an obstacle course. His time is competitive, not record-breaking, but showing steady improvement over 12 weeks of intensive preparation. Aurora's compass rides in his pocket. He checks it compulsively, not for navigation, for reminder. True north, moral bearing, the mission beyond tactical objectives. His training sergeant approaches, a man with 22 years and 3 combat deployments. Corporal Ashford, you have a visitor. Flynn turns. Aurora stands there in standard fatigues. No ceremony, no formality, just checking progress. How is selection preparation, Corporal? On track, ma'am. Selection begins in 4 months. Physical standards met, mental preparation ongoing. Good. Aurora watches him move through conditioning drills. Selection tests more than physical capability or technical skills. They evaluate character, judgment, the ability to make correct decisions under extreme pressure when no good options exist. Like standing up to Sergeant Blackwood even though it could have ended my career. Exactly like that. Aurora's expression is serious. That moment defined you more than any physical achievement ever will. Remember it during selection. Remember that the hardest challenges are often moral rather than physical. Yes, ma'am. She produces an envelope. Plain, sealed, hands it to him. Open this after selection. Pass or fail. Inside is contact information and instructions for next steps. If you continue to demonstrate the character you showed that night, if in 10 years you still want this path, that envelope is your starting point. Flynn accepts it with both hands. Reverence clear in the gesture. Thank you, ma'am. Thank me by becoming the leader this institution needs. By being the man your grandfather raised you to be. By proving that moral courage matters more than physical courage. She leaves him there, returns to her temporary office in the headquarters building. Her encrypted terminal shows 47 new priority messages. The work never stops. The mission never pauses. One message carries highest classification. From CIA Director of Operations. She opens it, reads. Her expression hardens. New intelligence. 8 additional Russian SVR sleeper agents identified across military installations. 3 in CENTCOM, 2 in EUCOM, 2 in PACOM, 1 in NORTHCOM. But the intelligence goes deeper. Shows coordination with Chinese Ministry of State Security. The 2 primary adversaries working together. Sharing intelligence. Creating a network that spans both Pacific and Atlantic theaters. This is not isolated cells. This is coordinated assault on American military integrity at strategic level. Aurora begins analysis. Cross-referencing personnel files, travel records, communication patterns, financial transactions, building the picture from fragments of data. By 0300, she has preliminary structure, enough to brief, enough to act. She composes a request, sends it directly to CIA Director and Secretary of Defense. Request authorization to form specialized task force. Personnel, Private Garrison Blackwood, First Lieutenant Vivian Sterling, Corporal Flynn Ashford. The response comes within an hour. Request denied. Reasoning, personnel recently disciplined. Security risk too high. Aurora anticipated this, prepared counter-argument. She video conferences with both officials, makes her case. Sleeper agents target the vulnerable, the angry, the disillusioned, soldiers who feel abandoned by the system they serve. Standard operators cannot effectively infiltrate these recruitment networks because they do not understand the psychology. They have not lived it. She brings up files, shows Blackwood's transformation, Sterling's program results, Ashford's evaluation scores. These three understand what it means to fail and choose to rise again. To confront darkness within themselves and then reject it. That lived experience makes them uniquely qualified for this specific mission. They can build rapport with vulnerable personnel, can identify early warning signs, can intervene before recruitment occurs. The director of CIA leans forward. You are proposing Generation 13, Dragon Balance operators with non-traditional backgrounds. I am proposing evolution, Aurora corrects. The mission is constant. The methods must adapt. People who have confronted their failures and grown beyond them are stronger than people never tested, more resilient, more capable of understanding human vulnerability because they have experienced it. After 90 minutes of discussion, authorization comes, conditional, oversight required, monthly reporting, but it comes. Aurora sends 3 encrypted messages to Blackwood. Pack for 6-month deployment. Report to Langley Monday 0600. Bring everything you have learned. To Sterling, you have a mission, classified, critical. Report to Langley Monday 0600. Prepare for the hardest work of your career. To Ashford, selection timeline accelerated. Report to Quantico Monday 0600. Your real training begins now. She closes the terminal, looks at the Dragon Balance medal on her desk. Silver dragon coiled between shadow and light, symbol of everything she has become, everything she must protect. I am ready, she says to the empty office. To herself, to the ghosts of operators who came before. The mission continues. 10 years later, Marine Corps Base Quantico, Virginia. Officer Candidate School, a lecture hall, 200 young officers, fresh from their respective service academies. Eager, ambitious, believing they know what leadership means. They are about to learn otherwise. At the podium stands a woman in Colonel's Eagles, 38 years old, the youngest colonel in Marine Corps history to command Joint Special Operations Task Force 7. Her blonde hair is shorter than it was, a single gray streak at the right temple earned through a decade of operations that officially do not exist. Her face carries lines, not from age, from decisions, from consequences, from lives saved and lives lost, and the weight of both. Colonel Aurora Callahan. Call sign Ghost, Dragon Balance Senior Operator, commander of the most classified task force in American military. She does not lecture on tactics, on weapon systems, on the technical aspects of modern warfare. She lectures on character, on the foundation that makes everything else possible. 10 years ago, she begins, I stood in a canteen at Fort Maxwell, Texas, and was ordered to strip by a sergeant who believed I was a lost civilian playing dress-up. That moment changed everything. Not just for me, for him, for an entire installation, for the trajectory of military cultural evolution. The young officers listen. They have heard the legend, the ghost of Fort Maxwell, the night Dragon Balance emerged from shadow into light. That sergeant's name was Garrison Blackwood. Aurora continues, he is here today. Colonel Blackwood, would you stand? From the back row, a man rises, still tall, still broad across shoulders. But the cruelty that once defined him is gone, replaced by hard-won wisdom. He wears a colonel's eagles, earned through a decade of exemplary service, of leadership that elevates rather than crushes. Colonel Blackwood nearly destroyed his career through toxic leadership, Aurora says. He made choices driven by unprocessed trauma and unchallenged assumptions about what strength looks like. But then he made different choices to confront his failures, to accept accountability, to do the difficult work of fundamental change. Those choices saved him, saved others, continue to save lives through the example he sets. Blackwood nods, sits. His face is neutral, but his eyes reflect understanding, pride in how far he has traveled. Also here is Lieutenant Colonel Vivian Sterling. Aurora gestures. Another figure rises. Gray touches her temples now. Confidence without cruelty, competence without need to dominate. She learned that elevating other women amplifies rather than diminishes her own leadership. That real power comes from building networks, not burning bridges. Sterling sits. In Major Flynn Ashford, a younger man stands. His red hair is darker now, freckles fading but still visible. His bearing is that of an operator who has seen combat and returned changed. He demonstrated that moral courage precedes and enables physical courage. That standing alone for principle defines character more than any medal or commendation. Ashford sits. These three officers are Generation 13, Dragon Balance operators. They command elements of Task Force 7. They execute operations you will never read about in any newspaper or see referenced in any official report. And they do it with honor, with integrity, with understanding that power without character is simply force, and force without wisdom is simply violence. She pauses, lets the weight settle into the room. Some of you will fail, will make mistakes that seem catastrophic, will face moments that test everything you believe about yourselves and your values. Aurora's voice softens, but does not lose intensity. When that happens, remember this. Failure is not final unless you choose to let it be. It is opportunity disguised as disaster, the chance to confront who you are, to decide who you will become, to choose growth over stagnation. The lecture continues for 90 minutes. Questions, discussion, real conversation about leadership as internal work rather than external performance. When it concludes, Aurora returns to her office. Blackwood, Sterling, and Ashford are waiting. Task force briefing in 30 minutes, Aurora says without preamble. New intelligence on the Beijing-Moscow Coordination Network. We have actionable targets in Seoul, Tokyo, and Manila. Rules of engagement, Blackwood asks. His voice carries the calm of someone who has asked this question 100 times. Observe, identify, document, disrupt if opportunity presents without compromising operational security. Standard Dragon Balance protocols. Team composition, Sterling inquires. You three take primary positions in the field. I coordinate from Langley. Generation 14 candidates observe remotely for training purposes. Ashford grins slightly. Generation 14. Strange to think we are the experienced operators now. Not strange, natural progression. Aurora's smile is brief. Every generation becomes the foundation for the next. The cycle continues. They file out to prepare, professionals, leaders, examples of what military service at its best can produce. Aurora is alone. She opens a drawer in her desk, pulls out worn brass, the compass she gave Flynn Ashford 10 years ago. He returned it last year with a simple note, passed to my student, True North endures. Beside it, a photograph. Thatcher in Montana, completely white hair now, face lined deeply, holding an enormous trout, smiling with genuine contentment. The retirement earned through 49 years of service. They video call weekly. He offers perspective. She provides updates on operations and personnel. The bond remains even across the distance. Her terminal chimes. Priority alert, new threat assessment, Russian sleeper network expanding into cyber operations, Chinese MSS coordination deepening to include AI-driven intelligence analysis, the modern battlefield evolving, the threats adapting. The mission continues, always continues. Aurora stands, straightens her uniform, touches the dragon balance metal. Still silver, still tarnished, still perfect, still carrying the weight of 62 years of history. She walks to the window, looks out over Quantico. Thousands of young officers training, learning, growing. Some will succeed, some will fail, and all will face defining moments. And when they do, when they stand at the crossroads between who they are and who they could become, Dragon Balance will be watching, will be ready, will be there. Aurora returns to her terminal, opens the threat assessment, begins formulating response strategy. And for just a moment, she is not in Virginia. She is in a basement in Berlin. 1976, feeling the needle bite into flesh between shoulder blades, making a promise to protect the integrity of American military power from those who would corrupt it from within. Except she is not Donovan Thatcher. She is Aurora Callahan. The year is not 1976. It is 2035. But the promise is identical. The mission is unchanged. The dragon stirs. The balance holds. The vigil continues. Some truths transcend time, some promises endure forever, and that is exactly as it should be.